eating.
Okay. Hi, everyone. This is Thursday, August 28th, and we've been doing God Talk sessions for getting close to 2 years now. But at one point at the very beginning, we talked a little bit about rules and guidelines. But during the last 2 sessions, it's been requested that we talk about those again, because particularly as we talk about issues that may be that may bring about some big emotions or some personal sharing. I think it's just a really nice idea to review these kind of guidelines. I think they nothing really ensures safety, especially on a recorded video, but that the public can see. But I think it'll make everyone feel a little bit safer, be a little safer, if we can just kind of review some guidelines. So we'll go ahead and get started after our normal introductions and icebreaker. And so what we do is just say the name that you want to be called, your pronouns, and then the answer to an icebreaker question which Leo will give to us.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I don't think we're recording, right?
We are.
Oh, okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Leo. Pronouns, he, him, or any pronouns will do. And today's icebreaker is, if you could get any haircut or any hairstyle, what would you pick? For me, it would be coloring my hair again and doing like a faux hawk or a mohawk, because that's how I used to have it, like in high school and college. And then when I started my career, one of my managers approached me and basically said, "Oh, can you tone it down?" You know, so so of course, yeah, but that would be me.
Hi, everybody. Name's Jared. Pronouns he, she, they, them, all of the any pronoun is fine. And you know, honestly, I have I guess anytime anyone changes my hair, I get dysregulated. So from the flat top. But I mean, you know, I guess I would try out the Killmonger hairstyle, you know, like the little side braids and stuff, little thingamajig. Try it out, you know.
That would look cute.
But it's a lot of maintenance, so I would never get there. If I could just poof it into existence, that would be great. Carol.
Excellent. Did you say Carol? Okay, all right, I'll go next. I'm Carol, she, her, and I'm here in Taos this time. I'm in Marco's room. Just seem to have better lighting, so that's why my background's different. And I wish I was one of those Barbie dolls that I used to have that you could just pull the hair out. I used to keep my hair really long, but it always looked a little shaggy and everything. But I went one time I was in a different town and I couldn't make it home to get my hair cut, and I said, I just want to trim. And they turned me away from the mirror, which should have been my first clue. And they cut like 14 inches off my hair and did it in a really in a way that just wasn't, yeah, it was awful. But I did kind of discover my curl and all that. But if I could have the same curl that I have when it's short, but have it like down to my waist, that would be ideal. I love it, and I wish I could keep my my previous. I wish I could keep my natural color forever and have no grace. So, all right, Suzette, we'll go in the order that I think we came on in. If I
you know, I've had my hair, the same haircut for just as long as I can remember, and I grew it out for when we got married, and I like it longer. But when I was in Mexico, I had it braided by some person on the beach, and that was very cool. I felt like Bo Derek, you know. I, I would do that again if I could like be on the beach with a drink in my hand like I was with, you know, getting the braids done. But it was out of my comfort zone, I will say that. I'm a little more conservative. But it was fun to do while I was out of the country. But
Nice.
yeah.
Okay, Kate.
It's funny that you asked this question because when the pandemic started and I was a nurse in the ER, and I was also losing both my parents in 20 and 21, one of the ways that I expressed my pain was I shaved my head. Of course, you know, Carol, the first year of the pandemic, you know, you had hats, you had everything, you were totally covered. And so I figured it out that it was a way of like self-cutting to, plus all the salons closed down. So
Oh,
I
yeah.
just buzzed it all off. Of course, it's not much different than now, but it was a way of coping in a way. And up until like a few months ago, I said, I've got to go to a salon. I can't keep doing this to myself.
So basically, you have the haircut that you would have. You wouldn't change anything. Lovely. I think that's
No.
beautiful. And that was a beautiful emotional story. Thank you for sharing that. That's wonderful.
It was the reality of the pandemic for healthcare workers.
Yeah. That's very true. Lynn? Okay, we can go on to the next one while you catch your, all right, Chelsea?
As I'm fixing my hair right now. If I could have any hair, I'm gonna have to be on the same wavelength as Leo. I come across dressing and looking a certain way, but that is a byproduct of corporate America because my real aesthetic, I've had every color that you could possibly think of: pink, green, purple, orange, maroon, teal, blue, everything. And that's my favorite way to express myself. And like, I used to have a bunch of facial piercings and things like that, but if you want a good paying job, unfortunately, apparently you can't have those things and have that. So
Well, I hope there's some people, oh, look, we got cash in the, but maybe some people have found places where they can express themselves without having to lose income, but it sounds like a reality for a lot of people. Okay, Alec?
Alec Keyham, I like the way my hair is now. The only thing I would change is, besides, a fresh haircut, cleaning up stuff type of deal. I would like to have my hair the color it was whenever I was little. It was it was like almost blondish, and it got dark as I grew older. And I would just like that color again.
Nice. Okay, Matt?
There it is. Oh yeah. Hi, I'm Matt. I'm with PPMCC. And hair that I would want to have. I don't know. I really hate the long hair. I'll tell you that. I've been growing it out for a year and a half, and I have respect for longer hair now. It's awful. Everything about it's terrible. So I don't know. I was gonna cut it and do some good with it. I don't know, cut it for a cause. But now part of me just wants to walk in and say, like some wild social media person, and just be like, "Hey, do something," and just have fun, because there's a lot of it there to do. But I am grateful that my age, not many people in my general group of friends have a lot of hair as males. So maybe
That's
I
a
should be
nice
grateful.
idea about donating it, and my niece has talked about doing that. She has hair that she can sit on.
I think it makes such a I think it makes such a difference in some people's lives. Some people it's
Yeah.
not important to, but the ones that would want it and that it will make a difference, I think that's a huge. Somebody was talking about identity, but it is. And until I had firsthand experience, I just didn't realize that some people it's a huge thing. For me, I don't know. I kind of want to just shave it myself some mornings.
Gosh, I like it long. It seems a lot easier to me. But I hate blow dryers, and my hair does weird when it's
I don't even do
I
anything
have
with mine,
bangs.
and I hate it. We're already talking blow dryers. I don't even touch that. And it's
Yeah.
too much.
Yeah,
It's
okay, gotcha. All right, Lynn, do you feel you able to talk again?
Yes, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay.
It's an interesting question. I have worn my hair just as it is now for the last 30 years. In actuality, I've had the same barber for the last 30 years. So I guess I'm pretty satisfied with the way it is. But I, about a month ago, I decided that I was going to let it grow. And when I try to let it grow, because I thought I wanted braids. If I were to change my hairstyle, that's what I would wear is braids. But I would want my own braids and not, added hair. And I just can't. It can get so long, and then I just can't stand it. And I've got to go get a haircut. And like Chelsea said, that's probably just a result of corporate America, which is out. Um, so that's it. And I'm Lynn, she, her are my pronouns, by the way. I forgot that at the beginning, I think.
All right, excellent. Well, um, let's go ahead and get started on our topic for tonight. I thought I had posted the everything previously, but I guess when I got kicked off, it went away. So I've reposted the guidelines that we're going to talk about tonight, and we can always talk about some other ones or changing them, rewording them, whatever we need to do. The one that we've talked about in some previous sessions is intent and impact. And I had brought that up just 2 sessions ago when we were talking about racism, and Kreger had said maybe we need to review the guidelines again. And I said the one that is coming to mind is intent and impact, and I think that was particularly apropos to some of the discussions that we've had recently. What that means to me is, and I hope that I was able to model it in the last couple of sessions. What that means is if somebody said, hey, what you said hurt my feelings, then it's important that I would take responsibility for the impact my words had and not just hide behind my intent. In other words, to not say, oh, well, I didn't mean to hurt you. Um, and I mean, that's not the easiest thing to do, because we when we think we're doing saying something nice or benign or teaching someone, quote unquote, and and it hurts their feelings, then we get real defensive. That's a natural reaction, but it's really important in these kind of sessions to go back and really look at that, and if somebody's feelings are hurt and you think and they told you that it was your words that hurt, or if they or if you believe that that was the case, then it's important to look inward and think about how to do better. So what are your thoughts on that? Has anybody had experience with that?
I've been on the other side of it, where I had to confront somebody that was in a position of power over me and say, what you're doing is not okay. And then that person, said back to me that, that wasn't their intent, and I felt like there wasn't a whole lot of thought put into how it would affect me, how what they said would affect me. And it was really a tumultuous time in my life. And it took me to a very dark place for months after that. It wasn't just a one day thing that I could just get over. It was something that I had to really retrain my brain to make a lot of personal decisions about how that one person could affect me, because I had a much bigger universe in that sphere that it affected, and I had to say the universe was bigger than that person, and that I was gonna fight for what I felt was the right thing. And everything worked out in the end. But if I had not said anything, if I hadn't opened my mouth, I would have had a ruined place in my life that I would have been bitter about the rest of my life. So I think it's just as important to confront the other person as it is to be the other person and say, oh, well, I didn't intend for that to hurt your feelings. I didn't intend for that to destroy you. Well, what did you think? How did you think that that was going to affect me? So that's it from my perspective of being the one that had to be the bigger person and make a lot of personal decisions based on what someone else did and said. So
Thank you for that, for helping us see that side of it. And but yeah, this is a real personal thing that we each need to look out for and take responsibility for. Chelsea?
I kind of offer a little bit of a unique perspective because, like Suzette, I've been on the receiving end of that, but I have also been the giver of that in the past. And obviously, we're not perfect, still struggle with that sometimes, especially if you're in a heightened state of emotion. But I've kind of struggled with that as well in the past, just because I'm afraid to confront the pain or the upset that I caused someone else. So like, for example, I've tried to take, like, whenever talking through things, I've tried to just eliminate certain words, certain phrases from my vocabulary completely, and this has been one of them. Um, well, that wasn't my intention. I didn't intend to make you feel that way. So what I've been practicing saying instead, that I learned through therapy is, I'm sorry that like my actions and my words made you feel this way, instead of, well, I didn't mean to make you feel that way. because it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't matter about how you meant to make someone feel. It matters about how they feel because their feelings are also valid. And so it takes a lot of self-reflection and empathy, and you can even have empathy and still struggle with these things. It just comes also from habit and practice. It's a lot of intentional practice to practice the healthy speech.
Yes, and sometimes we have to be confronted before we realize it. You know, I don't think anybody, I don't think if you have good intentions and hurt somebody and it's never brought up, you're never going to you're never going to know. How could you know if your intentions were good? And I mean, unless you're just, you know, unless somebody either says something or you see it in their reactions, which you have to be pretty sensitive for. So I was going to ask Jared and Leo, you were really brave about bringing some things to our attention. Do you feel like the impact of those of us who were responsible, do you feel like that acknowledged? Do you feel like that was acknowledged, and do you feel like that was adequate?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I do feel that it was acknowledged. I feel like I feel that that's why we are in these groups. Like, you know, my husband and I attend, you know, a different group Monday through Thursday, and I love these hard conversations. I do, because it's like if we don't have the hard conversations with our loved ones, with our friends, then we never grow, you know? We always just sweep it under the rug, and it's like, you know, we're just making a big mountain and causing more chaos. But no, I absolutely do, and I appreciate it.
Right. And, you know, like, I think it does a really good job at creating space for more generative conversations like this, right? Because, you know, like I kind of, so like community is like a big deal for me, politically, spiritually, right? Like emotionally, right? Everything is based on like your ability to fit in community and, you know, sit with people that you care about, right? And like develop a space. And a lot of what we grew up with, and the lessons that we learned was like, and I will use I statements, me personally, have caused harm. You know, like for me, like private schools, higher education, the strict parents, the strict, you know, structure of white supremacy, like, you know, that I grew up in, that was in my entire friend group. You know, like all of that, it kind of caused me to really struggle with fitting in with my people. It really created friction, and it really created a lot of tactics where I would casually harm without even really knowing why, how, or who I'm harming. It was just my communication. It was just, you know, my worldview. It was just, you know, the jokes. It was just, you know, it was everything, right? Like, because that's all I knew was harming, as a, like, hierarchies and, you know, climbing them, right? Was like the whole thing. And so like for us, like, yeah, like we have, you know, like we have a lot of work to do, because I have a lot of work to do, you know? And you know, like it's so good to be on this journey together, because we have several people in this group, just in this group alone, who have gone through high control group traumas that, you know, literally like make it to where we become less less tribal community wise and more you know, corporate oligarchy wise, right? And that's a lot of what I personally am against. So, you know, I love seeing y'all like, you know, doing the act of deconstruction. And I love seeing, because like I've been on this for a hot minute too, right? I love being on the same journey with my community. And you know, I look forward to more like this. It's so good.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Suzette?
So I've been a member of this church for over 20 years, probably 25 years, right? And I have seen a lot of people go and not come back. And I think it is has a lot to do with the fact that these kinds of conflicts happen internally, and there's no process in place to deal with the trauma that's caused within the church. So instead of me confronting, you know, somebody within the church, I just leave because I don't think I've I don't think I can come back to that. So I see a lot of people come back and like try another time and like, is it the same or is it different? Not different.
That's beautiful.
Bye.
That's beautiful.
You know, so how can we as a church say, hey, we've changed, we're different, we're the kinder, gentler church now, and we have, you know, we have empathy and we understand our humanity, and we understand we make mistakes, and we understand that you were harmed by us, and we want you to be okay. Whether you come back or not is your decision. But I've seen too many people leave over the years and not come back for whatever reason, you know. I think
Yes.
there's nothing in place. We have pastoral leadership, but what we don't have is when Reverend Vicky was with us, she was that person. I feel like she was like one of those people, along with Reverend Mona, who engaged in pastoral care within the community. And when you say pastoral care, that's a big word because everyone has a different perception of what it should be, and everyone has different needs. So one person's idea of what pastoral care should be is not the same for another person. So that's another reason why maybe we have some disconnect. But whatever we do, whenever we have a new leader, a senior pastor, I hope that person really takes time to talk individually to people and get lots of perspectives instead of just a few people who are gonna get their ear and say maybe not so good things, or maybe, you know, I just want us to be okay. I know it's a big wish, but I want us to survive in so many different ways, and I haven't felt so good about who we are than I have now because of these kinds of groups. And you guys are keeping people here because of who you are within the groups. And I just want to say big love to everybody who shows up here. It makes a difference. Sometimes I know you probably feel like you don't want to come, but it does matter. So anyway,
It does matter. It
Yeah.
does matter. And Suzette, I would be remiss if I didn't say, you know, we couldn't have groups like this if you had not created the online church. So So we are in your debt for doing this, but everybody, all of the panelists in this group are. I think that's where it's got to start. I mean, it's got to start with the individual, and then it's got to start with the small group. Churches are interesting entities, and they don't act like an individual. And thank God we are a diverse group in every way, in every way that I can think of. I wish we had more diversity in terms of age. I wish we had more younger people, but but I think we have a pretty good mix in a lot of ways. But we're also diverse religiously, and we all have trauma. Particularly, most people come to MCC with significant religious trauma. That's a lot of times what brings people to our church is religious trauma based on, a lot of times based on sexuality but I've seen other people come for other reasons, including racial reasons and just things that are in our culture, our more conservative churches have inflicted on people. You have to be this kind of way. You have to, don't come with your partner if you're not married in a heterosexual marriage, and those kind of things, um, and all this stuff that we had, like about just thoughts and prayers. And that fits into some of the things that that Jared brought up. When people just when you feel like people aren't really listening, and you feel like they're not that when you feel like their thoughts and prayers like don't have the actual actions that you wanted them to have, or the actual empathy. But I mean, there's lots of serious religious trauma. And I mean, I gotta say, as moderator of this group, I am not I'm not trained as a group therapist. And I think we've made great inroads in healing. But if y'all come here expecting that kind of healing from me, I can't. I'm not qualified to negotiate that. But I think that just the work that we're doing, GODTALK was kind of created with that in mind, with healing some of the religious trauma specifically. And we all know that there's so many intersections. And we've talked about how Sunday morning is the most segregated time in our in our culture. And so it's lovely that we have a more racially diverse congregation than I've ever been involved with in anywhere else. And anyway, so the healing from GODTALK was specifically aimed at a lot of our religious trauma has to do with our image of God, I think. I mean, it's a circle. If you have a negative image of God, then you act out of in ways that reflect that, and it just kind of keeps the cycle going. What I mean by that is like if you see God as some judgmental bearded old man on a throne that is just waiting for you to trip up so that he can send you to hell, then then that's really a hard place to be in the world. And it's hard for you to be loving if your God is not loving. And but it's hard to replace those images. It's hard to replace those images. And so that's some of what we try to do in all of our GODTALK sessions. And we try to kind of bring it around to that by the end of the hour. So anyway, that's I hope I hope that's to the point and not too far off the point. Jared and Leo.
I just want to kind of like address what you just said, because like I don't know if I probably referenced this before, but like, so there's a fun statistic, right, where schizophrenic and schizoaffective people, right, within the I guess what we call the men pride community, right, like had a study where it was compared the rates of adjustment, the rates of stabilization, and the rates of like just, you know, like being able to adapt with to normal life, right? Was much more pronounced for people who literally just went to groups full of people that had the same diagnosis, right, than if they went to individual therapy. And this was proven under multiple modalities of therapy, right? All of which were the evidence-based ones, right? And you know, it was found that like every time, no matter what, even if you're talking about the more intensive EMDRs, the more intensive like somatic therapies, even the more robust modern therapy-based approaches, right? Community has higher rates of like adjustment and adaptability and emotion, and I believe it's psychological health, which is defined by flexible control. I believe it's flexible control. It was like emotional, like a vulnerability and still adaptability, right? And finally, their ability to build community and fit in community, right? Were the foundations of psychological health that were being tested. And, you know, like that's true. And that study was expanded across just about every other, you know, mental health, trauma, whatever. And the same study keeps happening, and it keeps being founded that that people don't need a daddy to tell them what to do, right? With the fancy smancy therapeutic interventions, right? You know, as much as they need a community, a tribe. And so like, you know, definitely don't sell yourself short, because you might be doing more healing than even the best psychotherapists.
Yes, and I was gonna say, like Carol, you said, I'm not a therapist or anything like that. But I know Dr. I know Dr. Deloney and Esther Perel. They always say, grief demands a witness, right? And what better witnesses to have than us here as a group? So yeah, like my husband said, let's not sell ourselves short, because we are spiritual therapists. We might not have the title, but we are therapists.
And don't get me started on what little is you're actually trained in as a trauma therapist, right? Oh, don't get me started. Oh my God, there are so many trauma therapists that think they're credentialed, but they ain't got none. Anyway. Chelsea.
Awesome. That's beautiful. Okay, Chelsea.
Yes. So I had two things. Something you said, Carol, and wanted to kind of piggyback off of what Jared and Leo were talking about. But when I think of how we can be inclusive in terms of like kind of like what you were saying of what this group's about, when you're saying, you know, we want to reroute back to religious trauma, if we kind of think about it as like, you know, umbrella term. So like religious trauma, and then like each little raindrop that's beaming off the umbrella is some, like you said, you know, you've met people that have come to MCC because of religious trauma surrounding sexuality or racism or any, you know, all of the above, any kind of thing. I think it would be really inclusive and really healthy to think about it that way versus like a circle. Just because, like you said, like everybody is so diverse and everybody comes from different backgrounds. That's just kind of like when you were talking about it, that's kind of what I envisioned, was that kind of visual representation of kind of like how it all leads back to it. And kind of what I wanted to touch on, like what Jared and Leo were talking about, as someone who has really struggled with identifying emotions, you know, very specific emotions, not just I'm mad, I'm sad, or I'm anxious, but very specific emotions and also what triggers those emotions. I've always really struggled with that. And I will say, even though I've never been in like a group therapy setting, something totally unconventional, but things like TikTok have really helped me kind of find a community in a sense of you never, if especially if you don't know how to identify what you're feeling, why you're feeling it, it's nice to see yourself and others that have experienced similar things as you, and then you can be like thinking inwardly, oh wow, if this if they're feeling like this because of this and this is the emotion they're having, maybe it's this that's causing me to also feel the same way that they're feeling. And you can identify your own self better when you're, surrounding yourself with others. So, um, and like you said, sometimes you may not want to come. And definitely today, I was just like, oh, I'm so tired. But then when I was thinking about it, I was like, I really do always love these conversations though. And something told me that it was going to be worth it. So here I am.
Hey, and we're very glad you're here. Uh, and so we're in the last quarter of our hour. So we've only gotten through, we've only talked about one of the guidelines. So I'm gonna take one that may not take very long, and then maybe we can take a few minutes just to make sure everybody has had a chance to say their piece and say any reactions to what has happened today, bring it back around to if it had any impact on your image of God. So let's just talk about this privacy and respect. These guidelines were set up for like a classroom setting, particularly, but I mean, it works for a lot of different things. I've seen them used many, many different places. They were used, they were taught to us in our visions training, which was primarily an anti-oppression, particularly anti-racism course that was taught at the beginning of all the seminary groups at the seminary I went to, Episcopal Divinity School. And I've seen it used in lots of other places too, and it works really well. So, but what usually the first one is confidentiality. So we obviously don't have the same expectation of confidentiality when we are recording and putting these sessions out on YouTube where the public can view them. So what could the correlation be in our setting that for privacy and respect?
So I know I'm a yapper. I'm so sorry, but I have something that directly correlates. Last week's God Talk, there was a specific thing that I was talking about that I didn't really give any specifics, and then spoke to someone else that was in the God Talk last week privately, going into more detail, just so I could trust giving that person some more context on what I was speaking about. And so I feel like that would be a good way is, that, if we do feel safe to talk to someone in more specific context of what we talked about here, that that's a good way to maintain confidentiality as well.
That's true. And yeah, and okay. Suzette?
I just try to look at privacy as something that if I really want it to be private, then like we said, I wouldn't probably share it publicly here, but I do feel comfortable speaking to any one of you in private about anything that I'm feeling. And I think it's important that we respect each other's privacy and confidentiality when we come to you and say, I am hurting, or I need more context. Sorry, y'all. Christy's mowing. But I think it's really important to realize how much damage we can do to someone else with breaking a confidentiality. So I think it's important that if we want something to be confidential, that we express that with that person before we say it, so that person knows that you don't want to share it with everyone. Because there are people who are naturally just sharers, like, oh, I was at GODTALK last week and wow, what a conversation, and all of a sudden your business is everywhere, not just on the internet. But I think it's so important that we do have that within our group. So and I think that in the context of sharing publicly and online, what a resource this can be to so many people. We do have people who come and find us discoverability in that way. So it's been very important to make sure that these sessions get put online, because it's like this after the church services, we're like the next best thing with numbers. So I wish we had a way to share it more, more, but I think that will come with time. And 2 years feels like a lot to some of us, but we're just in the infancy stages of what this is. And the power is great. So never feel like what you're saying here is doesn't matter, because everything you say, every single thing, every single week that you guys share here matters. And wow.
And I believe it's reaching the people it's meant to reach. I really do. I think that the people who need to see it are seeing it, and I thank you for making it possible for this to be shared. And I also, I just want to say something real quick, Lynn, before you made me think of confidentiality goes the other way too. I mean, we don't want to be sharing anything in this group that that someone else said. We don't want to share anybody else's stuff. And Brene Brown says something about trust, that trust is built in these little things, but like if you trust someone, it's not just that they're not sharing your stuff, but if they come to you with just nothing but like some malicious gossip that isn't useful to you, and they're sharing somebody else's confidentiality, that breaks your trust just as much as if they had shared your stuff. If you can't trust somebody to hold those things in confidence. So that thank you for triggering that little thought in my mind, but that's another way to keep the confidentiality. Lynn?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. I think of privacy for this group in terms of you don't want to share somebody else's stuff. I mean, say I know something about you, and I'm sharing your stuff, and I didn't ask you if it was okay to share or whatever. I really appreciate it. For instance, that I shared with you that I wasn't going to be here one night, and you asked me specifically, do you mind if I share that? And I gave you permission to do so. So that's the to me the foundation of privacy. And I think in terms of the /respect is we have to respect people for sharing. Because it's not easy sometimes that we talk about very sensitive. We share with each other because we are in this group, but I respect everyone who shares their personal feelings and emotions and situations that they may have been in. And by the same token, I expect that they would respect what I say, because it's from the heart. I think that the majority, almost all of, well, all of us come from the heart, and that's not always easy to do. Privacy, respect, hand in hand.
I'm one of those people that Suzette mentioned, like I'm kind of an oversharer. I think it's kind of in my mind that if I can explain myself, it's got to be better than what you might assume. So I don't want you making anything up about me. I'm going to share it.
I did want to ask for clarification on the try it on. You know, as a corporate trainer and a talent development specialist for almost 30 years, none of this is new to me. And I think I know what try it on means, but I'd like to have
I think we're going to have another session to talk about the rest of the rules, but I'll just say briefly that, I mean, some of these were about respecting each other, and some of these are about learning. Some of these are about expanding your consciousness, all of that kind of thing. So try it on is like, you know, if sorry, I was reading the chat. If somebody presents something and you're like, oh, no, that's not how I think about things. That's, you know, then the invitation is to try it on and consider that, you know, that might have something to teach you in that. So we'll talk, I guess we need to continue this next week. We've got lots of big social issues and subjects that we want to address in the near future. And there's more happening every week in what's going on, but I think it's super important to lay this foundation. I think that this group is just becoming such a catalyst for growth and for healing for so many people. Y'all have mentioned that today, and I thank you for you know, for everything that you've said about that. And so yeah, we need to we need to discuss all of these things more. So we've really only talked about two of them in detail. So let's plan on doing that next week, but we will get back to the other subjects very, very soon. And then we'll have a bit of a foundation built for, you know, at least for the people who are coming regularly and anybody who catches up on watching the recording. So I think this will be very, very good. And I didn't think a discussion about rules could be this interesting and this intimate, but it sure has been. So just in the last couple of minutes, I want to make sure that anybody who has not spoken has the opportunity if they want to, and particularly if there's any impressions about the image of God that we talked about earlier. I would love to hear that. You can raise your hand, or if nobody's speaking, you can just speak up.
Yes, I think I've shared my story here a lot, and most of y'all know that that I basically never read the Bible, right? And at my young age, no, I never had read the Bible, and it's like I come from a Catholic background, and at least for the church that I attended, I feel like they've done a disservice to the whole community that attends that church, because it's like, yes, they teach from the Bible, but they only teach what they want you to learn or hear. And coming to Resurrection, like, I've learned so much in the past year. And it's like different ways of thinking, listening to y'all. And it's really changed my perception of God. And I truly now believe that yes, God loves me. And yes, whenever I die, I am going to heaven because I'm gay and I love my husband, and and God loves all of us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I just want to answer Matt's question about who's best to reach out to, and that's me. And if you get the if you're registered for the group, then I try to send out the link every week and the subject matter. And I believe I try to include my email in that. I don't want to put it here in our group chat for the entire public to see, but I'm happy to share it with all of you. And so I think hopefully it's accessible. And if not, you can reach out to anybody that you have contact with here. And Matt, I think in the emails you had to Suzette, I think I was CC'd on those. So you probably have my email.
Awesome. Well, Carol, thank you. And thank you all. It's just, I know I haven't said anything, but it's been valuable just listening in. And I definitely, the perspective, I feel like I'm coming into some of the perspectives and some of the conversation blindly. So what was shared has been absolutely meaningful. And so I'm so grateful for your time. And I look forward to next time. Absolutely. Thank you all for sharing.
Wonderful. We'll look forward to seeing you again.
Yeah, catch up. Watch us on YouTube.
Absolutely. I'll check it out.
Good to see you, Matt.
Good having you here.
All right, Suzette, would you like to pray us out?
Oh, you're on mute, Suzette.
To find my cursor. Oh God, how you show up. How you show up. This room is for you. And if I could put a square on the screen and put God on it, you would be right there, because this is God Talk. This is you in each and every one of us. Your mission for us to love each other is only going to be better when we understand each other, when we have a place to come that doesn't always feel like church, where sometimes church can confuse people. But this is an open room. You don't care what color our hair is. You don't care what it looks like. You don't care what we look like in the 80s with a faux hawk and all that other stuff, because you loved us then and you love us now. So God, thank you. Thank you for bringing us together each week. Please lift our words and share them with the universe. We love you. And we love your son, Jesus, and we love each other. So thank you. And I'm praying for everyone to have a blessed week and come back, because the conversation will continue, because we are God Talk. Amen.
Man.
That was beautiful. I just want to say a disclaimer, since Leo's the one that mentioned a faux hawk, that I don't know how old he is, but I don't think he was around in the 80s. So that's my disclaimer before I
Also, piercings too. Like, I know Chelsea mentioned it. I was like, bad, too
If
bad.
you have pictures, please share.
It was great to see all of you.
Yes, you
Like-
too.